Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Sendra D, where we journey beyond the surface to uncover the essence of living an authentic, affluent life. I'm Sendra D, your companion guide on this path of self-discovery and empowerment. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. My name is Sendra Dorcé. I am the host of the show, and I hope you've been enjoying these podcasts because I create them with you in mind. And so today I thought we'd do a little bit more, something more edgy, because you've had spirituality, you've had business, you've had a little bit of the legal background, which is not politics. But today I thought I'd bring you into my passion, which is the world of the military. Of course, you know, my father was a military general in Haiti, and he wanted to send me to boot camp, but I escaped that destiny. But I know today that what I'm meant to do is to bring life to some of the greatest voices of our ages and some of the personalities. I do say in the intro that I will bring you CEOs and heroes. Well, today I have a hero. His name is Jason Pike. He served in the military, and he is a combat veteran. He's a decorated combat veteran. And he also served in Afghanistan, and he served pretty much many of the places that you hear in the headlines. But I'll read you a quick bio. It says that being a combat veteran with multiple deployment, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Pike, U.S. Series, he's now retired after serving 31 years in the United States Army as both an enlisted and officer, including 9 years overseas in 5 countries. Jason earned over 30 service awards and badges and survived a wicked amount of military training. His first book, A Soldier Against All Odds, compiles all his life events. There's the book. And of course, then you know what you can find. We'll tell you where to find it. Compiles all his life events in an inspiring storytelling format with the ups and downs of a life in uniform. His diversity of Army job assignment in schools from 17 to 48 sets his military memoirs up differently than most. Jason's brutal honesty. He's on the right podcast for honesty. Jason's brutal honesty on how he did it while disclosing many sacred secrets about how he survived is unique. With a straightforward account of one man's journey, he inspires audiences nationwide at speaking events and shows how to be resilient and how to persevere no matter what disadvantage in life struggle may happen. After having walked through the VA benefit bureaucracy and endless paperwork, Mr. Pike, Lieutenant Colonel Pike, has made it his business to master getting the benefits he earned, and he now has a much needed blueprint to help other veterans do the same. His second book, Out of the Uniform, Back into Civilian Life, is an invaluable resource for veterans seeking clear, actionable guidance to navigate the often complex landscape of VA benefits and assistance program. Well, in addition to this amazing bio, there are awards in decoration. If I had to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I think we're in the 15, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, just doing your job awards, really. I had the Combat Bronze Star, but the Legion of Merit, but most of them are just doing your job awards. And the airborne jumping out of airplanes, that was an event. Air Assault School was an event, and Expert Field Medical Badge. But really, to be honest with you, I just did my time and I got a lot of awards, really. Yeah.
You did, and I'm so grateful for that. So, first of all, let me begin by saying thank you so much for serving your country in such a selfless way. I see myself as someone who's combating in a different way. I'm using my voice. And I'm bringing the opportunity for others to actually speak up as well. And that said, of course, I mentioned to you before the podcast, before the recording, that my father was a veteran as well, the difference between serving in the United States and serving in Haiti is that there's no such thing as VA benefits. People barely salute you. They don't even know how much service you did to this country. So this is a unique situation in the United States that when we come across people like yourself, we always say, thank you so much for your service, because it's amazing how someone can survive such treacherous environments. So I want to begin by asking you, after I've given all this background, what did I miss? What would you like the audience to know before we proceed?
I did 31 years. I joined when I was age 17 as a private at the lowest level that you can go into in the military. And I worked myself up methodically. The book, The Life, is an inspirational event. It's a resiliency book. It's not just for the military. That first book, A Soldier Against All Odds, that's for everybody in life, really. So the book is unique where it's about love, jealousy, fighting, war, but also just sadness and just the things that happen in life. It just happens to be, I was a character in the military, and I sort of walked a different walk and stepped on a few toes along the way and screwed up myself. And I'll tell you where I screwed up at, and I'll tell you where the military screwed up at. But it's just that way. And it could be a life of any of your audiences or viewers out there, really.
Absolutely. We're just average Joes trying to survive this insane world of class. I think the whole world is set up on a class system. But I want to say how excited I am because you are the first uniform person to come on this. But it is my heart and passion because I grew up as a little girl helping my daddy put medals and I would just get so excited. My mom was doing the uniform. I would say, want to be the one. My siblings were like, what's she getting out of this? And of course I did get treats, but those medals on that uniform were just a highlight of because my dad was going off on trips, and I knew my dad would be gone for maybe not like you, but a week or two. And that would be like my gift to dad. And so those medals on my father's uniform for me became a ritual. So I'm excited to have you and to help you bring the message to other veterans. And so let's begin with your early life. What first inspired you to join the military?
Well, at age 7 I failed the first grade. Reading and writing are my worst subjects. I was identified as a problem learner. In other words, I just couldn't get things together. I tried my best, but I thought outside the box. When I look back on it, they said, your son has got some problems just learning basic skills. I wasn't a bad boy as a young person. It's just I couldn't get it. And I failed the first grade. And later on, I developed a knee disease, osteomyelitis. So my early years, I was the middle child of 3. And pretty much for the most part, they just said, we'll just pass this guy off. Hopefully he'll do something in life. But just like anybody else's mothers and fathers, they love education. My dad did too. That's a key to success in many ways. But with me, it's like, nah, he ain't going to amount to anything. And I'm not knocking them. That was true. It was anecdotally true. It was verified true on paper that there was really not much hope for me early on, not just because of that bone disease, which I recovered from. It was mostly the mental ability to change a light bulb or to put on your shoe or anything that y'all could do better than me at the time. And so that was the struggles that I had early in life. That was me, really. And even to this day, it still is a little bit. And that's what created a great book in the military. But that's how I was growing up. And if you don't go to college, well, you better join the military. That's a good one. And so that was sort of the thought at that time, just to do something very basic. And it wasn't going to be full time. It was going to be reserve. I did eventually go full time, but I really joined in the National Guard. They used to call them the no-goes, NGs, or they used to call them nasty girls. It was a less than best uniform reserve force. And that's where I started at. And I never thought in my life I would go on to be an officer and do 31 years.
That's fantastic. I can't say enough how excited I am. I'm really absorbing everything you're saying. So like you, I was a problem learner. I think it's because many times for children, it's not so much the content, but the method in which they deliver the information. So I was in Catholic school. So I definitely was not able to be in sync with those nuns who are very structured. So I went from having a military dad who was very structured. My mother was very structured. The nuns were very structured. I was like, that's not working for me. I remember getting punished and being set outside the class. And this was in Haiti. And they would have you stand outside of class for like hours in the hot sun. So I have memories of my early days. I never thought I would go on to get advanced degrees, but like you persevered, correct? So who was it in your life at that point? Was that your mom, your father? Was it a brother or sister? Who was it was saying you could do all things? Like what gave you that inspiration to get beyond those limitations?
It was definitely my father. I dedicated the book to my father. And my mother, I have a lot of ass chewings from my mother, but my father believed in me. He loved children, and he came from a very white trash poverty environment.
Oh, wow, you said it. I didn't.
Well, he grew up in poverty. We grew up in middle class, but he had a skeleton in his head of dirt for poverty, and he can do anything if it means breaking the rules, which I did, whether it means stealing food, whatever it takes to survive, you do it. And life's again, all is fair in love and war is what they say. And he says, you just got to go for it. But really, he also passed me off in many ways, saying, let's just leave. They called me Jake. And I said, let's just leave Jake alone. We won't push him for education. He can barely even survive in his own, first grade classroom and second grade and all that stuff. So my father was the inspiration. I dedicated to him. He believed in all of the kids. But
how many were you?
There was three. I had an older brother who he pushed really hard for education, and he did well. I was the middle one, and I was the one who was the oddball. I was the black sheep, like you said, the black sheep. And then sister, and she also had some learning issues, but she got around it. She became a Spanish teacher, and I became military. My brother became a chemical engineer. So did really well, but it was my father's upbringing, and I wanted him to write a book because he had better stories than me. And I was thinking, I'm
with you. Same with me. My daddy should have written that book, but go ahead.
So yeah, they've been nagging on me, and I waited for them to die. I didn't want to do it while they were alive because I had to be out there and I had to tell it all, which I probably pissed off my sister. But the thing is, it's one of those bucket lists you got. You want to put your memoir out there. You want to put all your information out there. And that's who I dedicate it to. And that's who really inspired me. And still to this day, he inspires me.
That's fantastic. So did you have any military in your family?
My father was military. He was a Navy guy, and
That's right.
The thing about it is he hated it. See, it was a time where military was just a place to go and get your GI Bill and get out of poverty. It was not for people who want to succeed in life. It was not that. They didn't have that mindset. It's just a place to go to get your education.
It was just a tool.
A tool to get the hell out of there. He won the highest non-combat. He jumped overboard in the high seas, somewhere probably in the Caribbean. So I don't know, over in the Mediterranean. And he attempted to save some people's lives. It was an act of bravery. They gave him the non-combat medal that there is. And so he never wanted to talk about it. They personally probably didn't care for me or any of the kids to go into the military. It was not a popular thing to do.
I can imagine. So did he serve? It's military. So he was in the Navy, right? So what was that general's name? Butler? That very famous general, like Smelty Butler or something like that. He wrote the book called War is a Racket. Do you know that book?
I have not read the book. I don't know.
My goodness. Yeah. Well, the title is telling, right? The War is a Racket.
He only served 4 years and he was out. That was just to get his education to succeed in the corporate world because he had no money. He had to use the military for the GI Bill purposes. And of course, I did the same thing, but I did a whole lot longer and I did a lot more time than my father did. My father didn't really care about the military. Even though it's dedicated to him, he just looked at the military as a less than best place to go in life.
But you did it, and here you are. So, I'm enjoying this so much. So I want to get at that point when you made that decision. You made that decision, when and how, where, because, there are some moments in life where you know exactly when it happened, how it happened. And I'm sure it will stay with you the rest of your life because that really was the turning point for you.
Yeah, I was age 17. I was in high school, and I said, well, you know what? I'll be a weekend. They call them weekend warriors, reservists. I said, I'll be a weekend warrior. That's what I'll do for at least 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, just drinking beer, not doing much of anything. But I'll be considered a soldier, and I did it in high school. I rose my right hand. I had to get my mother's signature on the paper. to get into the National Guard. A good question that I have: how in the world did you get into a professional organization and passed a test and physically got in? That's a question. So with the testing, I feel they just passed me on. They needed numbers. I don't think I did really good on the entrance exam because I'm very, very bad. All your viewers out there, everybody can do better than any standardized test than me, even though I've got 3 degrees. And the physical problem, I lied. I lied about my physical problem. I said, I'm fine. I just checked the block that everything's fine with me physically, even though I did have a disease in the bone from years ago. So it was the standardized test that I think they just threw me in. Once you're in, you're kind of in. And so that's what got me in. And it's a mystery to how in the world did a dumbass like you join the military?
It was meant to be. I think some things are divinely created because clearly there was a part of you that just said, that's my calling. That's where I'm heading. Sometimes I wonder that about myself too. So you got through, and this was in 1982, and then you entered the military. So I don't want to fast track this, but what was the first deployment? Where did you go?
Well, National Guard, I didn't go anywhere. I was there for some years, so maybe 7 or 8 years. I'm going to tell you, 1983 is when I went to basic training. I was between my 11th and 12th grade year. That was a hell on earth. That was a come to Jesus meeting. I don't know if you've seen the movie Full Metal Jacket. It's set up exactly that way with all the cussing. It was a wicked level type. I didn't adapt well to the military. They sent me to a criminal correctional facility at the age of 17 because I wasn't adapting well. I went in there where they made big rocks into small rocks and they put a different level of hell on you on earth. That's where I saw Jesus or whatever. I saw some other things going on, and I came out of there totally changed. And from that point on, even though my high school counselors and my teacher says, don't go to college, I started questioning things. Only at the age of 18 going into senior high school, I said, yeah, I'm good. I think I can go to college and I think I can do more because you don't know what the hell I went through. And I can't explain it. It was too raw in my mind at that time. Yeah.
So when you're saying it was too raw, what you went through, we're talking about when you were still in high school, you were going through difficulties. So you're talking about the learning challenges that you had to go through. Because if your peers were just like passing the exam, like with no problem at all, you had double your study time because you knew you had a bigger challenge because of the learning disability, correct?
So I came back into senior high school. I was a soldier in high school because I had failed the first grade. I was a in high school, and my senior pictures, my hair is all off me in the big hair, and I was looking a little bit different. But the picture between my 11th and 12th, it's just totally changed. Everybody said, man, you changed. And I went to college and I said, I'm going to be an officer and I'm going to do more than what people think. Once you get traumatized in life, or once you go through hell, you come out a little bit different. And so I saw that. And so I stayed in the National Guard, and then I went to ROTC in college. I went to college. How did you get into, now a lot of people ask, how did you get into college if you have such a, well, I went to a junior college. Everything in my life was from the bottom. So I went into junior college, and then I eventually transferred into Clemson University in South Carolina, a reputable college. And I went ROTC. ROTC was nothing. It was easy. I went through there. And then eventually I went in to active duty special forces from the National Guard because I had an ROTC commitment to serve in the.
That's fantastic. So how long were you already in the military before you actually went into the special forces?
You're looking at 9 years in the reserves.
So that's 9 years. So from 1982, you're looking at 19 is what is it, 90,
about 10 years. 1990.
So 10 years, 1992. So yeah, so now you're believing in yourself. You know, you go into something, faking it till you make it. That's the word, right? You go in, you know these people, something in your mind, I know for me, is always looking around saying, I know they can do it. I know they can do it, but can I do it? So you started believing in yourself. There was a process where the more you did, the more you were like building character, building your confidence about yourself. And you said, I like this process because it's breaking through obstacles where I never thought I could be in this league. And you kept aiming higher. Is that what was happening for you?
I kept aiming higher. My first girlfriend was when I came out of basic training because I had the confidence to approach girls at that time. So there were second and third order benefits from the military. And it was a reputable, where I came from in South Carolina, it was considered a reputable place to be, especially with girls and things. And so I said, well, what? I'm going to take off with it. And yes, I believed in my first assignment was in the special forces, jumping out of airplanes. And I was not a Green Beret. I was a Red Beret. I was a reserve. I was a active duty Special Forces officer supporting Special Forces, supporting them. I want to qualify the statement that I was not a Green Beret, but I served with them, which is a blessing because they are the best of the best. And I was running around with the Snake Eaters. We call them the Snake Eaters. And I was running with them. And at that point in 1992, I said, I'm staying. I'm going to stay until my 20. I can see the long game. The long game is 20 years. You get 20 years, you get health care, and you get a retirement. And
I keep hearing that.
I was doing. Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So no, it didn't cross you. So you had a girlfriend. So you didn't get married. You didn't have kids during this time. Did you not get distracted with that societal expectations of children in marriage? You didn't leave an army or military wife behind to take care of the young ones?
That was later on. I didn't get married until late, probably 32. And then shortly afterwards, we had one baby. I have a daughter, baby girl. She's 23 now, no more baby, but she just recently graduated from Texas A&M.
Well done. Congratulations.
Mechanical engineering. And so my wife served with me as a support family member, and my daughter, they called them military brats. So that was later on as a captain, and I served all over the world with them. Of course, they didn't go to Afghanistan, but they went to all the other places like Korea. So, but no, I stayed a single soldier for a lot of years, maybe 15, 16 years.
Oh my goodness. So talk about the most grueling part of that training. So you talk about serving as a special force Red Beret. And I know how grueling you say you're kind of minimizing it, saying you're not as good as the Green Beret. As far as I'm concerned, any beret is beyond what I'm able to do. So for me, let's talk about some of that training, what it was like for you.
Well, the airborne training is really jumping out of airplanes. Where I went to airborne school, learned to jump out of perfectly good airplanes, and I really adapted well. I have to keep going back to 17 years old because that was the Jesus Christ moment. The 1983, when I was 17 years old, that come to Jesus moment, I got to keep going back to that moment because that's where I built the confidence up, and we've discussed it. And to me, that was the worst. Going from civilian to soldier was the worst, hardest thing to do for me. And everything after that was just gravy on a biscuit for me. It was like jumping out of airplanes, jumping out of helicopters, and doing all this other advanced training to me was not that difficult. I did it, and I was accepted into the clubs and the organizations. And I always qualify back to that 17-year-old kid to where I had to go through hell to become the soldier and to gain the confidence. And then from there, I don't say it was easy, but it was much easier than the beginning. And I just built on little baby successes. There's a children's book called That Little Engine That Could. That little engine that could, that just keeps on going, maybe slower at everything, but he just keeps on going. And that's what it was really. And the biggest hill to me was just getting through the initial stages of the training of 17 years old. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So when you were in these different compartments of, first you went into the National Guards, and then you went into just between the National Guards and the Red Beret. So was there anyone in uniform that was actually helping you, mentor you to say, these are the steps you take to get to where you need to be? Did you have that kind of personality or internship?
I look back on that. I wish I did. That would be a good thing to have, but I was a very, very quiet person. I didn't speak like this just 3 years ago. I was very quiet. I was very observant. How did this person do that? How did that person? And I would think, because I had a slower process, or I didn't have a mentor, but I just observed a lot and watched other people in their careers, how they managed things. And I did it a little differently. And I learned the system. My dad calls me an inside aviator. That means I learned how to manipulate and manage the bureaucracy to my advantage, to get the schools, to get the training, to get the deployments, to succeed and go up the ladder is how I kind of look at it.
So that's fantastic. But let me ask, I know we haven't touched on this. And of course, I'm a very spiritual individual. I'm a spiritual woman. I mean, I put God first in everything. And so even though I do a lot of meditation, which the meditation practice I have doesn't believe in a God structure, I do though. But do you have something that you feel you can give credit to help you, that guidance, which since it wasn't human, do you feel like it was divine? At some point you said, okay, I know something's got my back.
For me, it was, you got meditation. I had exercise. Exercise to me relieved all of my anxiety symptoms, and I would exercise. I was sort of a gym rat, and I got into the physical fitness part, and that really helped me deliver a lot of the stresses that I was going through out. And I just got into that, and that became a ritual, the sauna and the cold bath, later on the cold showers and the saunas. And I became highly physically fit. I still am pretty much. And that's what really helped me a lot. Of course, I would talk to God. I would say, thank you very much for this. Thank you for that. I don't know what the hell you're doing, God, but you're doing something right. And so I would jump on the successes and try to go from my heart to where I wanted to serve in a place that I was comfortable in. And I'm not saying I was perfect, and I was not a perfect penny. I had a lot of ups and downs, which made a good story. It's true. But that's kind of where I was from on the spirituality side. Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. Of course, I know you're in Texas, and I know Texas is very religious. So you don't consider yourself a very religious. Yeah.
I don't go to a organized religion, but I speak to God every day and thanking him and thanking that. And I think it's a lot of the things are just about treating other people right with respect. I think when you treat other people good,
the golden rule, right? Do unto others as they will do unto you.
Want to come back to you. It's going to come back to you.
That little thing called karma. I pay attention to that.
When I was a commander, so a lot of people, how can you be a commander and you don't know I just treat everybody really, really good, and it comes back to me. And they from the bottom, and there was just something about the dynamic, especially as a supervisor, that was easy for me to manage troops and to manage systems, because it was really about people, and I could handle the people.
Yeah, I'm a people person too. I can't always say that I was always pure heart. I did have to go through a process to get there. But now that I've gotten to this place, I would not do it any other way. I do see people though who just grift to get to where they want to be. And I said, God, I wish I could be more that way, because I'm so emotional when it comes to how I interact with people, to make sure that I don't harm another person. So knowing that your intention, going to battle, because you were combat, how do you reconcile do no harm with gotta do what I gotta do, gotta protect my country? Do you see what I mean? It's like, because it seems that they can coexist, but there needs to be a process to get them there.
So once you're trained in something to do in combat or weapons and things, and you do it over and over and over, that's the training comes apart. And in other words, you separate the emotions from the mind. Exercise also did that, and you would just have this part of you that would split off. You become focused on the job. It was a job. It was a target. You're running from the enemy, or you're trying to survive. The hardest part of combat for me was because my father died at the time that I was going to Afghanistan. So my mind and the grief and the sadness and the weirdness of myself, I was mentally challenged at a severe level going into the war. I could have declared, and I almost did this. And
when was it? Just to put a time frame on it. So Afghanistan started what, 1990?
My dad died in 2011. I went to combat in 2011. So
2011, yeah. But Afghanistan was way before that. Right. It started before that.
After 9/11, September.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, but you jumped in after it had already been in process.
Later on.
Okay. All right, got it.
That was really the most difficult time in my one of my lives was that my father, I had gone through a brutal, false, bogus federal investigation, but then I had my father die, and then I was going to war. My mental state was just very, very low. I was extremely fragile. I had the grief of my father was really interfering with my day-to-day life in battle. In battle, I felt in many ways battle was sort of like, okay, all I have to do is just put one foot in front of the next, take care of my soldiers, and we'll get out of there and just do the basics. But really, I was in a very weakened state of existence in Afghanistan. Afghanistan was not really a problem as far as the job, because I was a commander. I could take care of the troops, but it was my mental condition in the
clarity of mind. You were clouded with grief.
I was grief in a combat zone, which was hell.
Right.
And the combat part was easy. I got a good Bronze Star. Matter of fact, Afghanistan was my best performance in the U.S. Army on paper, period.
Interesting.
was the grief that I was going through in the war zone, which I had to somehow rise above. I did that through exercise. I did that through an elliptical machine. And it took a long time to process. I'd get on an elliptical machine and I would allow my emotions to come out. I would be crying on the machine. I would be laughing on the machine. I would be talking to myself on the machine. And I was like vomiting. It was just a vomiting, emotional vomit.
Mhm.
Afghanistan. While I was in the war really wasn't the issue. It was my father's grief that while I was there trying
I
to
can
get.
understand that.
Yeah,
So tell me, so did they have a chaplain to help you with this grief, or did you have to always process on your own?
they had a combat stress control team I talked to. They have a chaplain there. Yeah, there's a captain chaplain there that I used to talk to and eat lunch with. And so we had chaplain support. We had spiritual support of that nature. And so I utilized those as well. But I feel the individual left, right, left process helped me out a whole lot over there. And there's a therapy called EMDR.
Oh, I know EMDR.
And so I kind of did that procedure accidentally on my own with the processing mechanisms. And so the bullets and the bombs and the blood, there was no problem with that. I was kind of focused, and I had I'm going to show the Army how good I am. And I had a revenge. And
You had a goal, you had a target. The target was
I'm going to do well. If there was a way for me to get the Medal of Honor, I was going to do it. I prayed to God that I would die in combat. The reason I prayed to die in combat was because I was such a hell. I said, this would be a great way to go. I'm a soldier and I get killed in combat. This is a perfect ending. And
then you don't have to feel the pain.
You don't have to feel the pain. And I felt, but that of course didn't happen, but I wanted it to happen. I prayed for it to happen. And I prayed specifically not to be maimed, but to be killed. But, God had a different way to go on that one. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm someone who's very well versed in processing of trauma. I've had my own traumas to deal with. And I've said in previous videos, all the trauma is correlating to my father serving Haiti. And so all the Haitians listening, yes, my father's in service to that country is why I go to therapy. So that said, I know some people are more predisposed to SD because they come to the battlefield already broken or already uncomfortable with themselves, because that's what trauma does. It makes you uncomfortable with yourself because you don't want to feel that pain. So you're constantly trying to separate yourself from it with other things, whether it's substances, whether it's sex, whether it is drugs, whether it is whatever it is to make you not feel that pain. So for you, you didn't have, other than your father's, in your father's situation with passing, did you have any pre-existing situations that you were running from that may have been exacerbated on the battlefield?
Yeah, well, it was in South Korea. I was under a federal false investigation for espionage against the U.S. government. I had a lot of things that were like false and just bullshit that I was running from, and I was like, it was in my head. Well, first of all, so I was in South Korea before my dad's death, and so that was just a station that we go to. It was a garrison. It was non-combat. Okay. And so I went into an organization like we do every 3 years, we move. And I went in, and it was my third time in Korea. I went into a particular clique of people that were powerful, and I didn't get along with them. Okay.
Were they in uniform as well? Or were they bureaucrats?
Well, they were both one was just recently retired from the military as a full colonel. One was a full colonel officer, my boss. So, but they were powerful people. They were best friends. And I walked a different walk. And I didn't get along with a particular bureaucrat that had been retired as a contractor. He was a very powerful person. In the book, I call him Ted Small. That's a false name. And my supervisor, we'll just call her Martha. I was a senior person at that time, and that's where my big trauma came. I was always a smiley, friendly character, but then my smile just grew the way. Okay, it was a turf battle. So everybody's got a little space. Everybody's got a little importance in life. And I didn't know it was so personal to this guy that his job was his life. My job was family, and I was a little bit lazy, a little bit.
You were married already by then?
Married, I had a kid. Work is just another, I live to play in many ways, and I'm not that traditional type officer that just wants to work their ass off all the time. And that didn't work well.
Let's just put things into perspective. So you were battling egos at this point. You had two people with inflated egos. And trust me, I know what a general looks like because I was up close and personal. Some people look at the bling of living as a general's daughter, but on the inside, the general is still that soldier inside the house. And there's that constant need for control. And some of these people don't know how to separate, I think in their mind, they actually have been so trained as there's danger all the time. If they feel threatened in any way, they feel like the person, whether it be a child, whether it be a subordinate in your case, that person needs to be managed and handled. And let them know I'm the boss here. And I'm just giving you my insight into my own father. And as you speak about this leader that you had, so these people feel threatened all the time because remember, the higher you go, the more threatened, the more insecure you become because you feel like somebody's going to come along and knock you down. So is that what happened?
Kind of, sort of. In other words, they did feel threatened. They saw me with a different swagger, a different look, a different talk, a different act. I didn't play the game. I'm not controlling. It's hard to control me. So what they do when you're a senior person and you want to knock another person off the pedestal, you have to create shit up because you're in for 20. You're in. You just can't get fired from the military unless you have to kill somebody. Really, it's really hard. If you're a senior person in the government, well, you could create rumors. First rumor was that I was a pedophile. My daughter went to the Seoul American elementary school. I was a playful father. I'd go eat lunch with her. And I loved that young phase of fatherhood where you can just go, I was a playful guy. And that was fun to me. That's just fun. As a matter of fact, I was emailing some pictures when she was little. But once that didn't work and I became a pedophile just by rumor, that hurt me. I felt bad. And they had created false stuff. Once that didn't work, a year later, I became a spy. So I went from a pedophile to a spy within 1 year, from 2008 to 2009.
Who were you supposed to be spying for?
Foreign. So this was more formal. Spying, passing on documents to foreign nationals outside.
I know, but which country were you spying for, according to them?
South Korea, America.
Oh, no. You were passing information to South Korea?
South Korea or Vietnam or whoever it might be. So this was CID got involved. Criminal investigation got involved. Military got involved. I was brought up there on the hill of Dragon Hill Lodge. Well, the Dragon Hill up near the gas station. I was brought in there and they read me my charges of possibly a spy. And then if I wanted a defense attorney, it never went to court. But you got to understand, I thought when I went up there, it was about pedophilia, like playing around with children that were bad. But no, it was about totally, they just ditched that and said, let's go to something else. So I went in there and CID and MI were there and they said, you need a defense. So for the next year and a half after that, I was followed around. I had computer crashes. I had monitoring. I had various wicked things that occurred in my life. I was in a state of paranoia, and I didn't do any of that. I didn't do anything. But
what year is this? All this is happening in South Korea. You're stationed there with your wife and daughter.
So, my wife and daughter were there. They were people that I support. So it was 2007 to 2010, 3 years. The pedophilia was brought up and rumored on 2008. And then after that didn't work, 2009, that's where the SAIDA, the subversion and espionage against the U.S. government came in. That was
wait a minute. So the same military that is talking to us about changing genders, I'm just saying. So the same military that is saying that my tax money can go ahead and help somebody, man become woman, woman become man. And you know what? I am not one of those people that you can come against and say, oh, you're afraid. No, common sense is what I'm trying to apply to this conversation. So the same military that had Millie wearing, like, he wished to understand what it's like to be gay or black. And I'm going, you people are now doing this to people who serve with honor. So all those people in the military still who are going through this, I'm so sorry you're going through this. So I want to bring you back a bit because some of these people, one thing I know, so yesterday I had a conversation with an attorney and we talked about, she's an attorney and mediator, and she mediates families and also legal contracts. So one of the components of some, of these processes is having to determine who you're mediating with. And in her case, she had narcissist in her meeting. So we talked a bit about how to strategize when you're mediating with a narcissist, when you're in legal battle with any narcissist. We talked about they smear you. They try to convince other people of what they are capable of doing. They never back down because for them, the idea of being wrong is just non-existent, and they will go until they can't no more. And I give an example of a rabid dog. It's like, even if you were at some point friends or that rabid dog was a pet, we all know once a rabid dog becomes rabid, there's nothing, one way to get them out of your mess is taking that gun and putting it out of misery. And that's only the only way you can set them free. So that said, when people are like, oh my goodness, I grew up with guns. I don't care about people who think guns are bad. But anyway, that rabid dog wants that gun. Or if you can get close enough to shoot it up with a serum or something, good luck with that. But the gun is the only thing that can protect you from that rabid dog. So what was your ammunition? We're going through all this, pedophilia, spy, et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera. You little coming from a small town in Texas or, and we're just like honor and service and patriotism. And then you've been escalating to like worldwide spy and hashtag pedophilia, Epstein Island and all that good stuff, So how did you manage that? And what was your strategy to battle these demons?
In the beginning, it was just alcohol. I drank a lot. At that time, I was drinking to excess every day to go to sleep. And then I eventually got to the chaplain, talked to him. I went to mental health when it was not good to go to mental health. I went ahead and I was a senior person when I did all this. I stayed in paranoia for a long time. I was watching my back. My family was there, which is a blessing because my mom, she said, just keep doing what you're doing. You ain't doing nothing wrong. You're cool here. You're cool with the neighborhood. You like to chase kids. You like to be a fun father. Just keep doing it. Don't change any type of behavior that you're doing. And I didn't. Still went to the
guilty.
And I felt guilty. I felt ashamed. I felt mad. We all have an event in life where it breaks you. That was the point. I had been through so much military training, but that sort of broke me a bit. And so that was where the buildup of this trauma occurred during that false federal investigation and all the other things. I have an entire where all the other things. So that's where accumulated, like you talked about, this thing accumulated. Then you become more fragile. Your father dies, or
it's compounded,
or whatever. Anything, you're more fragile, and then therefore, I come back to that as the baseline of where that trauma occurred, and I felt ashamed. I felt like I did something wrong. I felt mad. Yep. I wanted to kill these people that had done me.
That's what they want you to do. They want to break you. They want to subordinate you, and they want to make you know that you're not in charge here. So I'm the boss. So go ahead.
So yeah, that lived with me for a long time, for many. We all get mad at a person, but usually it goes away within months or whatever. This stayed with me for a long time. I had fantasies of killing the people that had done me wrong there and putting me through that hell. And I learned through counseling that it's not going to, if I did kill them or if I hired people, I got some money, it could cause me more problems. And it
wouldn't let you sleep. You still wouldn't sleep at night.
Yeah, it still would be a problem. And so I decided to back off from that. But it lived with me for years. And I said, I'm going to retire and I'm going to do the damage. But I didn't do it, thankfully, because I got some help.
Still drinking at that time, right? Alcohol is still part of your story at that point.
At that point, yeah. But it had gone down a whole lot. It only went down to weekends. So I had gone from, during the investigation, well, of course, in Afghanistan, everybody was dry in Afghanistan. When I come back from Afghanistan, I started drinking every day, and then it went back into weekends. So I was able to modify it from drinking every day to weekends. And that was really not the issue. It was more of the issue of that trauma that occurred. And then I went through the EMDR. I think EMDR did well. I think the working out.
Fantastic tool.
Then the vomiting, the book, writing it all down, and then expressing it, and doing the podcast like you're doing, expressing these things, continue to help me. And it's just a slow chipping away time, but also expressing everything also heals as well. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I have substance abuse in my story, and I had a lot of skeleton in my closet, some of the things I did outside of it before I got sober, and also some of the things I did after I got sober. But one wise person said, I said, what if they find out about this? She said, the best thing you could do is tell on yourself. Mm-hmm. The person who admits their fault first cannot get guilted into anything. So once you start telling your story in a way that is comfortable for you, then no one can use it against you. And that's what I hear you doing, which is amazing because of all you had to do. And also you were in a leadership role, which means you had to be an exemplary soldier so that you could command that respect from your subordinate, right? So did you have to actually sort of tone down what you were doing with your soldiers in order to stabilize yourself? Did that come into play? I mean, did you actually feel that you needed to sacrifice your role as a soldier to take care of yourself as a person?
Well, when I went to Afghanistan, I told the troops that my father died. I didn't tell them about the pedophilia and the spying charges of anything like that. I just told them my father died and my mind ain't right, and you got to really help me out. So I did tell them that I need help, and please, I could have mentally declared health. I could have easily gotten out of Afghanistan with a mental clearance, but I decided to stay on board, and I decided that I was going to do the switcheroo. In other words, I'm going to come out of there. And I did. I came out of there very well with many awards and things. But no, I did tell them, please help me out. I need your help because I'm not right. And they did. They did very, very well by just expressing that part. I didn't tell them about the federal stuff. That was too raw in my mind. I couldn't get my head around what I just talked to you about. That was still out there. And my security clearance was challenged, but it was given to me. So they didn't get the security problem. That didn't occur. So, but no, it was one of those things that's hidden. It's considered a secret, and you don't hear about it. And we never went to court, but it was a false allegations can damage people very well.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And even when your world is shattered, and recently, last year, someone very dear to me who was very engaged in my recovery life passed on. And I felt destabilized because that's the person that could ever vouch for what I had to go through. And someone said to me, and I said, I feel like a fraud at this point. I said, nobody knows that I'm honest about how long I've been sober. She says, doesn't matter. As long as you know the truth about who you are and what you're doing, that's all you need. That's all you need. And guess what? That stuck with me. So that's what happened for you. You started believing in yourself and knowing the truth about your experience, knowing that you were not what they were calling you to be, and knowing that you didn't do those things. You would never betray your country. And so to wrap up this segment, talk to me more about how you were able to bounce from despair up to be a conqueror of all these demons. And when you made that final decision, it was like, I'm not leaving, I'm staying, and I'm going to hold my head up high.
So when I went to Afghanistan, that was my redeeming coming out of the grave. In other words, this is where I'm going to show. And I kind of did Afghanistan tour I was at the bottom again, and I said, I'm going to come out of here stronger and better, and I'm staying on board. I'm not leaving the military. And I didn't. But eventually, Afghanistan was 2011 to 2012. I stayed on 2 more years past that. I wanted to tell them that you weren't getting rid of me, and I did. We went on to Germany, but I was sort of redeemed out of the dead. So I came from like a piece of crap all the way up to a Jesus Christ because once I come out of Afghanistan, they're saying, you're good, you're good. My mind was saying, well, what happened over there in Korea? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about, I didn't want to say it, but what happened about that? But so I came from mud, and then even though I was a senior person, then I went really well coming out, and they said, you can have anything you want as far as assignments. And I said, I'll go to Germany. And we went there, and I retired out, and I really retired because I had done the mark. I redeemed myself in a way that was okay. I did a few more years to show them that you didn't break me, but I was burned. I needed medical help. At that time, the trauma, I needed to explore other alternatives to the EMDR and other things. I really needed that. I was a sort of a walking zombie in many ways. Again, drinking pretty much on the weekends for the most part. I kept it to the weekends. I was going into medical therapy before retirement. In other words, counseling and things of that nature. And then once I got retired, I just focused on mental health, and then started to put the pen to the paper to write the books and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. But I want you to tell the audience exactly how you knew that situation in South Korea with those people, those personalities, let's call them those narcissists, how did that wrap up? Because I feel like it's
Yeah, that's the problem. That's a big problem with me on how that wrapped up, because no one come to me and said they're sorry. No one come to me and say this was false. It just went away, and I had to see, because even after Korea, I felt paranoid, like people are following me around and this is going on. And that happened after Korea. I felt that there was somebody trying to get me, and because they did in Korea. But once I left Korea, there was no more events. I call them events. There was no more other charges. There was no more rumors. There was no more computer crashes. No more wild people trying to call you up and try to fake you and try to screw with your head. It just went away. It went away, and no one said they're sorry. And that really bothered me for years after that. And
so no one, those two people, it was a high-ranking military general and a woman who was a military colonel. They just never reappeared again.
Never happened. Nothing. There was no more. I had a defense attorney.
Did you not look them up on their Facebook page? Did we have Facebook at the time? Were you not looking to see what are they up to? I mean, because I would be like, I want to know where you are. I want to know what you've been. Are you still stalking me? Because I want to know what's going on there. You didn't investigate further?
They're not stalking. They can get other people to do those things. And
that's what I'm saying. It's like, are you still having your paws on me? What's going on?
No, but I knew where they lived at, and my plan was to go and do something bad to them.
Right.
I never did that. I had to work through that. It was a long process.
You did, but before you worked through it, because, it just disappeared. Nothing was like, there was no letter of apology. There was nothing. Nothing came to this day. Nothing. You've not. Where are these people now? Where are they? Do you know where they are?
They said that their job, the military.
Should I reach out to them and interview them and say what was going on there?
Go for it. Yeah, that's fine with me. I'll give you the names if you want to. Yeah, that's cool with me.
I have a few questions, by the way. Do you remember that incident back in South Korea, by the way? And I interviewed, he's a really nice guy. What were you thinking? I'm going to say, what were you thinking? You're traumatizing people out there. So anyway, yeah, that's an afterthought. So go on. So nothing, no apology. The military never said to you, you've been clear of these charges. It just disappeared.
Yeah, so I never went to the level of court. They just followed me around, played games with me. I had a defense attorney who told me, he says, what's going to happen is they're just going to try to find stuff on you. And of course, if that doesn't happen, if they don't find anything on you, then you're just in the clear, basically. I didn't go to a court. I didn't go to an Article 15, the article hearing. I never had to do that because there was nothing there that was solid. And so, but it still bothers you. It really bothers you.
It's like the shadow looming, over you, thinking like, and you replay it in your mind because that's what trauma is, right? You replay it in your mind was like, what did I do wrong? Was this something I said? Was this something I did? How can I change it so it doesn't happen again? Is that going to happen with this one? Because you look at, first of all, the uniform triggers you, because I can imagine that every time you saw somebody with the same level of authority, you'd be like, okay, is this going to happen again? So how do you calm yourself through that? How do you stabilize? And I guess you had some good therapy and some support.
Exercise, it was therapy. I was working out like crazy, like a wild man working out. And that really helped me out a lot. I'd go to the sauna a lot. I do sit-ups, push-ups, and I would work through mentally and express it while I was doing physical fitness and physical exercise to get it out. And that seemed to do very, very well for me. But there's certain people in your lives where you don't want to ever meet them again because you don't know it's not going to be a good thing. Matter of fact, me and my father were going to beat the shit out of that guy named Ted Small in 2010 in February before he died at a conference. And we had planned on it. We got the baseball bats from Walmart.
Ted Small?
Ted Small is one of the enemies that was in Korea.
Really? So you just give me a name. I'm going to look him up, see if it's still alive. I'm going to try my podcast.
The book name. I can the real name. I don't give you the real name, but we can do.
You still have him in your book. And show the book again. That's which book are we? Do you mention this situation?
A Soldier Against All Odds. The chapter we're talking about is called Third Time's a Charm. You could go to the Dirty Laundry right there, Third Time's a Charm, which I put everything in detail on the situation that I was going through in South Korea. But we had to change names, liability, legal, things of that nature. That's why we changed those names.
Well, I have advice for some of these people because you know there's an afterlife. You're going to come back and you're going to be persecuted in the next life, because if you don't redeem your sins in this life, they will linger. They don't disappear when you die. They follow you wherever you go. So, I would suggest you take inventory of your actions. But so let's just wrap up this segment to talk about, so you left South Korea, you went to Afghanistan. So you started sort of dissolving this process, like shedding skin. You were shedding skin. So what would you say to someone, because that was a major issue. What would you say to people who are currently in the military and dealing with that, because these sociopaths don't stop. It's like it's a playbook for them. And how I know these sociopaths, because some of these sociopaths canceled my dad, because it doesn't matter what country you're in, people in military uniform, they come with interest of serving country or just gaining power. So there are two types of soldiers, I believe: service and power-oriented people, the grifters that you see all the way at the top of the food chain. And those are the people that we should be scared of, because they will sell out the country. They will sell out the people who write the paycheck, the taxpayers. So tell me, to those people who are the patriots, the people who are the ones that go in, love this red, white, and blue flag that we call the flag of the United States of America, those people, because I'm not talking about these other people. Those people don't care what flag and that's on their pole. They'll put colorful flags anywhere. But that said, tell the real patriots, how do you sustain peace of mind and stamina while all odds are against you?
I'm writing a book about what you're talking about. My third book will be out August 15th. It's about toxic leadership, the narcissist, the sociopathic thing. That'll be
You better come on the show and talk about that.
That will be coming out. So what you do is you get away from them. They have so much ambition. They are such a narcissist, and they will destroy you. You walk lightly. Lightly.
It's that rabid dog. Take the gun.
Try to, without reading this book that's about to come out, you need to get the hell out of there. Whatever it might be, move. Or personally, I would not challenge these people. I would not challenge them at all.
It's a rabid dog. You can never retrain a rabid dog. And I'm not asking for violence. I'm not saying go literally take a gun. There are people like, I saw Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. She said, take the gun. Not what I'm saying. The gun is metaphorical, and it's in your mind. Whatever tool you've got to save yourself. Whether it's a therapist's office, whether it's a car that you drive to get away from them. But the point is, get away, but finish, please. I interrupted you. I apologize.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to challenge them, you better have your ducks in order, whether it be sexual harassment, what I went through, whether it be anything that you're going through, you got to have details over a long period of time. Hopefully you've got them with another coworker, but even then you could possibly get it into a quality control. You could probably put it in through the chaplain or through internal investigations if you can go that route. Don't go, they're going to eventually find out who you are. And so it's a risk. You're taking a big risk to challenge these people. I would say try to transfer, try to leave and go somewhere else. I was not in that situation. I was in a survival state. I was in a mental dated. There's no doubt I could not do my job because I was always watching myself, watching my back. I had eyes poking. My sensitivity of hearing and smell it increased in ways, and my eyesight increased in ways that I've never had because I was just trying to survive day to day. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy to be in that.
At all.
Yeah. And so I would get the hell out of where you're at, is what I'm saying.
And so that is one of the topics that I touched on yesterday about it's no different. A narcissist remains a narcissist. It doesn't matter if he's wearing a uniform or he is wearing a dress or she's wearing a dress. You could tell I'm being politically incorrect here. The mafia is going to come after me. Oh, you said this and you're whatever. And so what I'm trying to say is they don't back down. These people are just broken. And they believe they have to control everything outside of them so they can feel comfortable within themselves, except no amount of control out here can make them feel uncomfortable, because the point is they hate themselves and they want you to make them feel worthy. So nobody can do that for anybody. You got to do it for yourself. So final thoughts on what we just talked about, your career. If you have young military listeners or young people listening who want to join the military, what is your suggestion for them?
I would go for it. I would show up at the right place at the right time with the right attitude. Attitude is everything, and just go with that. And I would try to do very well on those entrance exams so you can get into some good skill sets. But no, I'm not bashing the military. I'm happy to have been in the military, but it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but show up at the right place, right time, and the right attitude. And you'll be going further than most people if you just did those three things without knowing a damn thing. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Pike, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. And tell the audience how they can reach you.
JasonPike.org is my website, JasonPike.org. It'll link into all the social media. You get the books there. I'll be there, and I put out blogs. I put out messages and things of that nature on JasonPike.org, especially with Facebook and Instagram. So that's where you're going to find me, and the books are on Amazon and things of that nature. So I'll be coming out with another book and another book and another book. So,
we will be having him back, especially, my favorite topic of the world, narcissism, because I'm a vampire slayer. Yeah, call me Buffy. I'm the vampire slayer because I've had too many of these people. And you see that over there is where they reside. Most of them. That's where there's the narcissist cult, which is where I grew up. So that said,
Washington, D.C.
Oh, Washington, D.C. Yeah. We're going to slay all of you. We're going to expose you. And so I would love to have you back. And that said, thank you so much for your service. And I'm sorry for the difficulties you've had to face in service to your nation. And you are an honorable man. And it was an honor for me to have a conversation with you on the Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. You are a welcome guest anytime. Thank you so much.
I'll be seeing you back.
Subscribe to Frankly Speaking with Sendra D and join us each week as we uncover stories of resilience, transformation, and the pursuit of your true affluence mindset.
And I won't sit down, won't back out. You can't ever shut me up.
Come and join me on this journey. I promise not to disappoint. Don't forget to make sure you like, subscribe, and share to be notified when a new episode is released.